Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing podcast, where we're getting stuck into another weekend of Group 1 racing. Just to touch on the fact that there is plenty of Group 1 racing, of course, in France on Sunday. We're not covering that on this podcast. Don't expect it. This is Saturday ITV stuff through and through, where the feature is the Kingdom of Bahrain Sun Chariot Stakes. A stellar team amassed for you to tackle the contest we're going to be doing across 3 tracks this weekend. First of all, a warm welcome to a new face on the podcast, Natalie Jane Green. From here on, shall be referred to as Nats. How are you, Nats? All good?
Natalie Jane Green. Gosh, that's very formal, isn't it? My middle name. Very plain, isn't it, Jane?
That's all right. I've got Charles Edward in the middle of mine, so that's nothing special, is it?
That's very, very regal.
It's very, isn't it? Yeah, thank you.
I like it. Well, it's great to be joining, and yeah, it's great because obviously familiar faces with you lot, and it's great to be part of the team and hopefully get some winners. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly right. There we are. So hopefully plenty of those. We always blow our own trumpet when we have a good week, and we always admit when we didn't have such a good week. Last week, shameful stuff. It just wasn't our week, I'm afraid. There you go. Sometimes it happens. Hopefully a lot better this week. Adele, how are you? Lovely to see you. The tour of the Mulrennan household continues. We're in a whole today. Those of you listening on the podcast are missing out. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I've got a little bit of the flu, so you have to bear with me. Good job we're doing it over Zoom, isn't it? And have the computer so you can't catch my lurgies. But I'm good. I'm ready for the weekend. I think we've got some great racing to look forward to.
Absolutely. And Sam Turner, a stalwart to the podcast. We need to up our game, Sam, because we've got two terrestrials on who are, ITV racing. That makes us extraterrestrials, I suppose, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And no middle name either this end, Tom. We couldn't afford him in the 60s, sadly.
You just is Sam or Samuel?
Just Samuel.
Just Samuel Turner.
Well,
You need it.
Samuel's
Have you got siblings, Sam?
Sorry?
Have you got siblings?
No. Just.
They really went short on the names. Yeah, right.
No. It was just me and Golden Labrador's Nat in the 60s. That was it.
No middle names afforded.
No.
Right, let me make you aware of the ongoing offer first of all. So it is our ongoing matchbook offer. It's a bet 10 get 15 offer. Bet 10 get 15. So all you have to do is bet £10 and you will get 15 back to play. Enter the bonus code INSIGHTS15. That's 15, the numbers, INSIGHTS15 to take advantage of the bet 10 get 15 offer. And don't forget, if you like our content and you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening to us on the podcast, then do give us a review. It's very helpful, and do so on your preferred podcast app, and subscribe because it makes it easier to listen to every podcast each and every time one goes up across all the sports. Head to insights.matchbook.com as well if you want to recap on any of the bets, because that will be up within 24 hours. I'm going to say I'll get that knocked up and sent over, and that will be up with all of the guys' bets, best bets, and everything they fancy in each and every race. That's insights.matchbook.com. Right, that's enough waffle from me. Let's get stuck into the preview. So first of all, we're going to start with the feature, then we'll go back to the start of the day and go on in chronological order. The Sun Chariot is the feature. It's the Group 1 for Fillies. It's over the mile, and at the top of the betting currently at 4.0, you've got Snow Lantern 4.5 for Mother Earth, Saffron Beach 9.0 going up against Mother Earth again for the first time since the Guineas. Well, no, in fact, she ran in the Falmouth, didn't she? It was very disappointing on that occasion. No Speak Alexander, who won at Leopardstown last time, is 10.0, Lavender's Blue 13.0, and then we are into the bigger prices. Right, there is some agreement here, and there's some it's mainly agreement first of all. So Adele, I'll come to you. You like the Guineas winner. Why?
She's been holding her own all season. She's a dual Group 1 winner. I don't think you can take anything away that she was probably unlucky out in Ireland the last time. She was locked up at a very crucial stage in the race, and if she'd have got out earlier, I think she'd have won. So if given that, surely she'd be much shorter if she'd have won that race. She's out of a 5 furlong Dandyman mare, so she's got that nice little bit of speed and a good turn of foot as well, which is needed. She obviously holds that course and distance form from winning the 1,000 guineas. I think seems to handle any ground. I don't know what everyone else is thinking about the weather, but I don't think anywhere is hiding from the rain on Saturday. It looks like a horrid forecast up and down the country, and she seems to handle any ground. So I'm not going to worry about the weather too much with her. And I think at the prices, I'd be quite happy to jump on board now, because I think she'll shorten up over the next day or two anyway.
So she's 4.5. That's in any good host of this podcast would have started with the conditions, but I didn't. So there you go. But I think that's one of the most important things, because we've been dealing over the last month or so with quick ground really everywhere between Britain and Ireland, but it looks as though it's going to change. Nats and Sam, what are you working on conditions wise for Newmarket this Saturday?
After you, Nat.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really can't keep up with this weather, because it changes so violently. Like, I'm based in Cheshire today, and we are non-stop rain. I tried to have a look at the forecast earlier, and I agree with Adele. I don't think the rain is stopping at all. I even actually think for Saturday it's given literally 100% rain. And it just depends how much gets into the ground. It depends what they're doing on track, what the clerk of the course says. But I think conditions are, I think it's already getting in. Like here, I don't know, it's going straight on top of the ground. We've just got huge puddles forming everywhere, but it's going to have enough time to seep into the ground, and the rain ain't stopping. So at the moment, it's good to soft. I mean, Sam, are you looking at soft and worse for Saturday?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, at all three of the venues that we're looking at, really. I mean, there's 8 TV races. I think Redcar's going to get a deluge. Newmarket's going to get plenty as well. That's all going to make its way over to Paris for Sunday. And I do think Ascot's going to get a swamp as well. So we could get anything between 15 and 20 mil if you look at the next 3 days forecast, which is obviously a sizable amount already on ground that's eased because of the rain we've already had. So I think that's not going to inconvenience Mother Earth. I think she'll be fine with that. She copes well with deep ground. As Adele rightly pointed out too, she was really unlucky at Leopardstown last time. Just events didn't pan out for her. Ryan Moore was trapped with nowhere to go. It was just an impossible situation for him. Good bit of race riding by one or two of his rivals that kept him penned in that box. And I think, back to Newmarket, she's got pace around her as well. Stalls on the far side this week, which is a difference from recent meetings there. But she has got pace, I think, in 11 and 12. Just Beautiful's right alongside her. So, depending on where they race there, at least she's got something to get a bit of cover in behind. And I agree with Adele. I think 7 to 2 is really, really fair. Obviously, she was 5's early week. There's been 1 or 2 withdrawals and absentees, but I still think 7 to 2 or 4.5 is a very fair price for a Guineas winner who really, her form shows no sign of tailing off. She seems in great nick still.
So Mother Earth, who is currently second in the betting, 2 votes for her. Nats, I know you're singing from a similar hymn sheet and also want to reference another one as well. So take it away.
Yeah, I haven't got too much more to add to what Sam and Adele have alluded to, really. I just think she's Mother Earth, just an absolute class act. And like you say, with the ground, and I do see it certainly being soft conditions. There's been a bit of a chat, hasn't there, with Aidan, some of them, not firing as much in the bigger races, but we've got to remember a lot of his are abroad as well, whether it's France, America, whatever. And I wanted just to give a mention away from Aidan's Mother Earth to Saffron Beach, which might sound a little bit mental, because actually looking through the form, I can only really find one piece in October 2020 at Newmarket on the soft ground. But she was always doing enough that day. Obviously, that was a long time ago. And then it's not been really as soft since. So we last saw her at Sandown in the Group 3, the Fillies and Mares, again, when she was the winner. But it's the way that Saffron Beach keeps on. She's got a really good attitude to her races. She keeps on strongly. And I just thought that she's in with a squeak when I was trying to look elsewhere, because I had a feeling we might all agree on Mother Earth.
Well, I was looking at it very similarly to you. I personally don't want to back Mother Earth at that sort of price. Mainly, I'm really concerned draw-wise for anything that's not low. I want to play sort of on the draw, if you like. And I think Saffron Beach is the one to back at 9.0. So she's my play in the race. Basically wants something that's likely to not be too far away from the speed and also is drawn over towards that far rail. I remember when Bilston Brook won. So last year they were stand side and Nazif won it at 12 of 12 up the stands rail. I think it was 12 of 12. Bilston Brook won it when drawn 1 the last time the stalls were far side. And I just think there's going to be a real heading towards that rail, and I think everything will suit Saffron Beach. I don't necessarily think she's the best filly in the race, but I think she's the best bet win and place at 9.0. She's handled cutting the ground before. She doesn't have a huge amount to find with Mother Earth. When actually I think the ground would have been lively enough for her in the Guineas. It was an absolute disaster at Epsom where Jane Chapel-Hyam says, my fault, we shouldn't have gone, and rain didn't help. And then the Falmouth, she maybe she, I don't know, wasn't over that run at Epsom. That was disappointing though. And then she got her confidence back with a win when she should have won in Group 3 company at Sandown last time. So I'm going to have a small go win and place on Saffron Beach. Anything to add to the Sun Chariot, ladies and gents?
Just the final point, Tom, was that obviously stablemate Shale, who made the running for Mother Earth, supposedly in Leopardstown, is right next to Mother Earth as well as Just Beautiful. So my misgivings about the draw and the fact that, Mother Earth could be drawn lower and further to that rail, they've just been lessened a little bit by the fact that she has got 2 confirmed pace setters alongside her.
Yeah, absolutely. Take that. And yeah, Mother Earth comes out of 10, as you say. There is pace in and around her. Shell's coming out of 13, which is widest of all, isn't it? So maybe no bad thing. Right, let's kick on, or we're going to go back, as it happens, to the opening race of the day. This is the 145, affectionately known as the 10 furlong Premier Fillies Handicap. And at the top of the betting, we've got Achilles, who is 6.5, 7.5 for Ensemble, State Occasion is 9.0, Evident Beauty is 11.0. Then we're into the bigger prices, so I'll give you those if the guys are putting any of those up. Right, difference of opinions here. Nats, let's start with you. Who do you like and why?
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I looked at this a few times and didn't really you can see, but I've written so many notes, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But I actually came down on Ensemble in this for Roger Varian. 4 races, last 3, second, first, and then second. The last 2 starts on Ensemble both came over on the all-weather. But Tom, what I was looking at was her latest at Lingfield. It was pleasing because basically she progressed from a novice win and she was racing 3 wide. So she was caught wide throughout the whole race really and from the outside stall. So I actually thought that she ran really, really well that last time. And it just sort of gives me the sort of feeling that she's going to be capable of better. And I think that this is the type of race that actually Ensemble can pick up.
Ensemble is currently second in the betting then at 7.5. Would you be, we've got a 14 runner field, so would that be win and place for you, Nats, just in case she doesn't quite get ahead in front?
Yeah, I think that's the safest. I mean, I've got a whole page on Auntie Bridie. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast on that horse. That just crikey. God, how frustrating, just terribly frustrating. So, yeah, I think the win and place because obviously the Andrew Balding does look very talented. So we'll have to see.
I'm with her, Achilles. I know Sam is as well. You can flesh out the case, Sam, but I effectively think that, well, if the rain comes, we know that's no bad thing for her. I like the fact that she can lay up with the pace. I never really like them to get too far back here anyway. The Goodwood performance was excellent. I thought she was going to win at York. She didn't, but the ground was probably lively enough, to be honest. And I still think of 93. She's very much the obvious one, but she was a little bit bigger than I thought she might be at 6.5. Sam.
Yeah, I must admit, Tom, this race was a bit all Greek to me, to be honest. But Achilles just about got the nod, just because she's got confirmed form on soft ground. She's run well. She's held her form pretty much all season. I think the mile and quarter's fine. She just got trapped for a run at a momentary stage between the 2 and the 1 at York a little bit. I don't think it cost her anything because she was run out of second close home anyway. But I don't think this track will be a problem for her. The Flying Ginger might find it a bit harder to make all at this sort of venue. So fingers crossed, with Andrew Balding's horses continuing pretty fair form at the moment, she can deliver a big challenge here under Will Buick. Looks a good booking.
Achilles, the Greek goddess who drove away pain. which anybody's.
Let's hope she doesn't instigate some on Saturday afternoon.
No, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's punting. There's plenty of pain involved. Adele, who do you like? You going for one at a bigger price?
I am. I thought it was a perfect race to just have a little nibble at the bigger prices. And Swoon is one that I've come down on, a real improver. She's only had 3 starts. She won on the all-weather over 1.5 miles. She then dropped down to 1 mile at Carlisle on the grass. She made all the last day. She's still learning on the job, and she's still got a little bit more to learn. But I thought, I'm not quite sure what they'll do with her tactic-wise. I know they made the running with her at Carlisle, but I think that was purely just to kind of maybe make her stamina come into play, because she does stay a lot further. She obviously stays 1.5 miles. We know that she's proven it over 1.5 miles on the all-weather. So I'm not sure what they'll do with her tactic-wise. I think there's loads of pace on in the race. The Flying Ginger likes to go forward. Miss Gandhi, she's another one who likes to go forward. So I think there'll be plenty of pace on in the race, and I think she'll have the stamina that'll come into play late on in the races. I just think she could be anything, absolutely anything. Her wins are on the all-weather and on good ground, so on a sounder surface. But her mum, Marine, had won on soft heavy going, so if the rain does come, I think she'll be able to handle that as well. So I just think at the prices, I think you'd be crazy not to go and look at something a little bit elsewhere that could be anything, and have a small kind of win bet, and then and a bit on the place market as well. That'd be price
13.0 then, yeah, win and place for Swoon at a bigger price. Biggest price of the ones we put up in that Fillies handicap. The 205 at Ascot is the Rouse Stakes. I think I've said that right. 5 furlongs for this. And
Rouse Stakes.
Is it Rouse?
Rouse.
What's Rouse after?
Wasn't it a member of the jockey club or something? I can't quite remember, but I'm pretty sure it's the Rouse Stakes.
Yeah, definitely.
You see your public school boys, you managed to pronounce the Greek horse correctly in the first, and then you can't get Rouse right.
Yeah, clue,
that was the Greek mythology lessons.
Yeah. I missed those. I must have missed those at Cotswold Comprehensive.
It was just after Latin. Either side of lunch, those two. Right, yeah, 5 furlongs for this.
We had woodwork, mate.
Exactly, yeah.
DT.
We've got Hurricane Ivor, who's done nothing but win of it. The last 2 starts have been phenomenal. Steps up into Group 3 company to win last time, 6.0. Dakota Gold is 7.0, 8.0 significantly. Tis Marvellous is the same price. They both like it here. And then we do get stuck into the bigger prices. It's a bit of a head-to-head, really, on the podcast as far as we go here. So in the blue corner, Adele and I. Adele, you can make the case for Hurricane Ivor. Off you go.
Oh, I love Hurricane Ivor. I absolutely loved him at Newbury as well. He was my pick of the paddock that day. And, he's only come in 7 days after winning the Portland, and he looked fantastic. He hadn't turned a hair. A lot of sprinters, when they turn around pretty quickly, you think, they're going to get a bit sweaty and kind of get a little bit buzzy. And he looked absolutely fantastic. He's taken his racing so well. He likes a stiff 5 furlongs. The Portland was obviously 5.5, and he handled Newbury very well. That was his first step into group company in the UK as well, when he won at Newbury Group 3. So he's definitely a horse to have on side. My only doubt about him is the ground, whether how much rain will come, because although he's won on good to soft, I'm not quite sure how soft he would want it. That's why I got Dakota Gold on side as well, because he comes into his own at this time of year. He loves the autumn. He loves soft, heavy ground. So it just depends how much rain comes for Hurricane Ivor. I'll be keeping an eye on the forecast, because Dakota Gold, I think he won 3 this time last year. Obviously in October and November, he won this race twice. So I just think I'd fear him if a lot of rain would come. I'd have him on side as well. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the forecast, I think, weather-wise and the ground conditions.
That is exactly my concern for Hurricane Ivor. I think everything is perfect. Draw-wise, 9 and 9, hard up against the stand side rail. I think that's ideal. Enough pace on in front of him. But I remember before the Stewards Cup, the trainer, William Haggis, was adamant that he wouldn't appreciate the ground, and it seemed as though he didn't. But then he has got form with a bitter cut in it, so maybe it's just 2 testing that day. That'd be my worry. If the ground went really testing, I probably wouldn't want to back him. But I think at 6.0 is a very fair price. And I think the stiff 5 at Ascot is going to be right up his street, and everything else is, everything is spot on for a big run. Dakota Gold is 7.0, won this the last 2 years, although last year it was at Donny, but he's well found in the market as well. And then, so there's a couple of shouts for Hurricane Ivor, Adele saying Dakota Gold, and then Nats and Sam are a bit more team Tis Marvellous. So Sam, first of all.
Yeah, not a race I'm totally in love with, Tom, if I'm honest. Tis Marvellous just gets the selection because I think he's holding his form really well. The Beverley performance was extraordinary on the clock. Hasn't worked out too badly as well, beating Just Another Bottle. I like his Ascot form as well. I think he's a very fair price win and place at 8.0. I'm scared to death of Dakota Gold, I must admit. I mean, there's the last two runnings of this, one of them at Nottingham, one at Ascot. As the guys have rightly said, comes good at this time of year as well when the mud's flying. The Dodds horses continue really good form. I mean, exceptional trainer. Drawn 8 as well. That's an interesting box really for Dakota Gold towards the stand side rail with the stalls towards the stand side. That could make him a very, very dangerous player. I should be having a split stakes play really, but I'm going to back Tis Marvellous, probably win and place at 8.0 and hope Dakota Gold, who just looks to have perhaps just got off the boil a little bit, but he was poorly drawn at Beverley, so I might have to have a save on him. I'm talking myself into having a bet on him as well, I think. As you can see, I'm really committed to this race, Tom, as you can tell.
Basically, we can talk Sam into a bet in anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dakota, so you would have a bit of Dakota as well, would you?
Me?
Sam.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm like that bloke off the Fast Show, one that changes his mind every 4 seconds. I think I would have to. I might revise my play and have a split stakes on them both rather than back in Tis Marvellous win and place. There you go.
Okay, there you are.
That's my final answer.
That makes perfect sense. Tis Marvellous and Dakota Gold win only, both of those on side. And that's a couple for you, but mainly Tis Marvellous?
Yeah, well, I actually quite like this race because I was at Newbury. Hurricane Ivor, he is a beautiful horse, and Maureen Haggis was there that day and she was like, I promise you, he is so straightforward. He does take a little while to get going, and that's probably would be my concern with the ground, because he does take it, I don't really think you can afford to take a while to get going, especially if it is more holding. Tis Marvellous. I mean, what a story. I think Clive Cox had quoted, surely must be one of the best horses in the world to own. Like, it's just one of his quotes, but I actually think it's really sweet because he's getting on a bit. He's 7 years old. He's not that young, but he is in fine fettle, isn't he? He's been so good, and I think this is such a cliche, but horses for courses. But he hasn't really put a foot wrong at Ascot. Yeah, he's not always gone there and won, but he's always sort of hit the frame. And I think with his course form, the confidence that he's in, he ran creditably last time when we saw him at Newbury. I just think this time he might have it more suited in his favour over Hurricane Ivor. So I'm going to stick with Tis Marvellous in this. But one I was going to mention, Tom, is Minzal, just because of that scintillating display to win from off the pace at York. That's pretty nice form, isn't it, in the Jim Crack? I can't really get away from that. The one thing about Minzal, as I was watching his replays earlier today, he has so much speed about him. Really does have some speed about him. And I think this first try at 5 furlongs is a really good thing for connections that certainly know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'd love him to go really well based upon the form that he showed last year. Obviously, they're playing a bit of catch up. Let me give you a price. I'm not sure if I got as far down as Minzal.
No.
I'll confirm that Tis Marvellous price, which is 8.0. Minzal 17.0. First start for almost a year exactly. And a decent enough price for that Minzal. Right, let's kick on to the next one we look at. We're going back to Newmarket from the Rouse Stakes, and this is the Tattersalls Auction Stakes. Big price.
This is why you're not on terrestrial television, Tom, I'm afraid.
Don't get it right. It's as simple as that.
No.
All you got to do is get the sponsors right, and you're on.
Exactly. No, look what I've done here. I've shortened Tattersalls to Tatts. That's not getting any love, is it? It's just appalling. The Tattersalls October Auction Stakes, no less, over 6 furlongs. Right, I'll give you the top 5 in the betting, and then it's a massive field, and it's anyone's guess really. Fearby is 7.0. Tatsimaki is 8.0, 9.0 for A Day in Asia, 12.0 for Foden, named after Sam's favourite footballer, and 13.0 bigger the remainder. And terrifyingly, we basically all agree here, which is nothing short of frightening. I'll come straight back at you, Sam. You're going to make the case that three of us are going to make for Fearby. How confident are you?
The only slight concern I have is that he's had quite a busy season and he's drawn in 18. He's stuck down the middle of the track a little bit. Now, he's got pace to the left of him, Sierra Bonnie, pace to the right of him in Favourite Child, brilliantly named. And he can obviously race fairly prominently as well. Obviously, the jockey booking is going to ensure he's towards the prominence in the market. I do genuinely believe he's well up to winning a group race this year. They've obviously diverted from that because this is such a valuable prize, and why wouldn't you? It's worth an absolute fortune to the winner. 81,000. There's not many group races run in this country for juveniles that are worth any more than that. So it's a very understandable decision. I just thought he ran really well at Newbury, stuck to his task. It was remarkable, really, that he's done so well over 5 furlongs, because virtually in every race that he's running, he's looked as though the 6th furlong is an absolute requirement, and maybe even further. So I think he's well proven on soft ground. Yes, he's not proven at the track yet, but hopefully he's balanced enough to enjoy the undulations of the Rowley Mile, and I think he's very much the bet for me in this race.
Comes at the top, about a point clear at the top of the betting. Adele, flesh that out for us.
Well, we were at Newbury, weren't we, Natalie? And I do like Fearby, and I'm purely going for him on the fact that he's probably boasting the best form coming into the race. He's been contested in group races, 2nd in the Malcolm, 4th in the Gimcrack, 3rd in the Mill Reef. I wasn't overly taken with him in the paddock that day. I personally, I would love to see these 2-year-olds up close and personal, because some of them, that, like Sam's saying, they've had busy seasons already, and they're just starting to go in the coat. So I would personally love to see them before I was really going to commit to one in this race, just to see. I thought he was just starting to look like he was going in his coat and would look like he would probably need clipping. So I wouldn't be going wild in this race. I'm purely going on the fact that he's not a bad price at 7.0, given his form. I'd probably have a small win and a small place bet on him. I wouldn't be going wild. I would genuinely like to see these 2-year-olds in the flesh, just to see how they are this time of year, especially the ones that have been going all year, because they are just starting to go in the coats now, some of these 2-year-olds.
Yeah, it's put me off. I like Fearby, but that would be, it would be a slight concern, I thought I put him up last time and I thought the race would really suit, but I think he's definitely the most obvious one. He's 7.0. He has the best form going. He's rated 104. I like in these sorts of races that, when horses are shown what they're capable of, I don't worry that he's got 9.3 on his back. And I still think he's worth a go winning place. The other one I want to put up is Holiday, 1 or 2 in the race in the Julie Wood colours. I would assume that Sean Levy had the choice between the two, but then 8.7 is his minimum, and I just wonder whether it's a case of he's chosen Zoom because he thinks it's the better horse, or whether he doesn't have to do the minimum for any other ride on the day and hasn't for a bit. So I'm not looking too much into that. And he made his debut in listed company, and then at Sandown he did incredibly well to finish where he did, given that he nearly came down about 2 furlongs from home, and he proved he handled the ground. He probably wants further. It's probably a terrible shout, but I thought he was a massive price at 26.0, so I would be playing him win and place. And I also quite like the fact that he's going to be quite up close to a rail, the stand side rail. Not that I know that's where you want to be drawn, but I quite like that he's near enough a rail. So those would be my 2 shouts, Fearby and Holiday. And then Natalie, all on your own with this one, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. No, because Adele makes a really strong point here, because we were at Newbury. Actually, me, Adele, and I think Mark Johnson, Mark, we all liked Wings of War, the winner for Clive Cox, who to me was an absolute standout and beat Fearby there. But you've got to take it into consideration now. Not only are their coats going, like it's getting colder at night, it's the change. Now is the change. You can see it in many of the young horses, due to their lack of experience, and when their coats start to go, they get a bit poorer. And exactly the same with some fillies. I've gone a bit left field, haven't I, here with A Day in Asia for Harry Dunlop and Nicola Curry. My main sort of points on this, to take a bit of a punt, was she's still improving. Goodwood last time was at £5 for that narrow defeat, the narrow win at Leicester. Goodwood was beaten by half a length, but it went to a proper duel. And again, that's what I love to do. I love to watch the replays. I love to see their attitude and how they behave in a race. I think you can wax lyrical about a horse at home, but they've got to do it on the track. I thought her attitude was excellent, and she gave her best late on. So I think it depends how this race pans out tactically. But if it is going to be a race where she can be produced a bit late on and just come up there, then I thought, well, A Day in Asia is worth a shout. But I have to agree with Adele. These are the races, really. You want to be looking at them in the paddock. It's true. It is true.
Yeah. So we need some, depending on whether you're watching. Exactly. Whether you're watching on ITV Racing or Racing TV, we want some serious camera shots in the paddock, or if you're going to be there, ideal for those. Day in Danger is 9.0. I take it win and place, Nats, just in case.
Yeah, okay, it's not too bold, is it?
Not at all. Well, it's bigger than Fearby.
Yeah, but Nicola, of course, a great season with the Sugar Cup, and I rate her as a rider, and I think if we are going to take on the shorter prices, I think A Day in Asia is not the worst. I just hope it pays off. Let's see.
One of two really tricky 2-year-old races are challenging on the day. Move on to the 240 at Ascot, which is the Cumberland Lodge Stakes over 1.5 miles. I could not find a bet in here that I was confident about having, so I am sitting out, I'm afraid, and watching on. We got Hakuma's 3.0, Title 5.0. I'll probably do a Sam and talk myself into a bet before the end of the preview. 6.5 Quickthorn, 9.0 Ilarab, 10.0 Alunak. Then Alinac is 12.0, 29's Wells Fargo Eagles by Day 40.0. Big price here, Adele. The second last horse I read out, Wells Fargo, win and place.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting him to be as big as that, because we haven't really seen that much of him. We missed all of last year. I mean, he was massively well thought of. I remember in my first year or two for Go Racing in Yorkshire, interviewing, William Easterby about him, and he was entered in the Derby. He won the Acomb as a 2-year-old. He's obviously had some problems, and I remember even back in 2019, he'd had a couple of problems with his feet. So I think he ran without shoes, if I can remember. There was a problem with his feet. He's a big horse. He takes a lot of getting fit. So he's had 2 runs now this season, and I thought that was a very decent run at Chester last time out. Considering that it was Alinac that was behind him, and I thought he was shorter than him in the betting. So I'm just going to go small and just have a little place bet on him, because he's got a big race in him. He's just clearly got issues. Tim Easterby, I mean, he's had a fantastic season. I'm not even sure how many he's on now, because every time I look, it doubles each time. He must be nearly on 130 for the season. I think he could do a lot worse than having a small bit of a place bet on him, considering a couple of these are coming back off disappointing runs last time out. So I think Wells Fargo's got a big day in him. Just not sure when. Hopefully it's Saturday at a big price.
Yeah, you're playing it at 29.0. That's fine. Would you go, Adele? Would you so mainly a place bet? Would you have sort of a, if you went 90% place, 10% win, just in case he did manage to get his head in front, and then you're not ruining the fact that at that price you didn't bet in the win market?
I think I'd see how my other bets are going on that day. If I'm not doing very well, I'll probably just go steady away. If I'm doing all right, then I might go in a little bit harder on him.
Very, very sensible. Wells Fargo then for you, and then a couple of shouts for Hakum first of all.
Yeah, I wonder with Adele's pick whether it might be a good trading opportunity, because there's not a lot of pace in this, I didn't see. And Wells Fargo is one of the only sort of pace angles. So, if you're going to bet at 29 or 34 Adele, then you might want to get out of it at a shorter price. It might be a good vehicle for that, Wells Fargo. I really don't like backing horses at 3.0 that have made respiratory noises last time out. And that's what you've got to do with Hookham, unfortunately. I mean, he's previously looked at a classy individual. Wears the tongue tie for a reason, clearly, because his wind's not great. And that is a bit of a concern with 20 millimetres of rain forecast in the next 48 hours, that, the ground could become bottomless, and that might put extra pressure on his breathing. But, Connections seem happy enough to plough on with him. I do think he's the class act in this race. I think there's other horses in here like Quickthorn who can improve. Title, not sure about his head carriage myself. I mean, he did knuckle down and do it at Doncaster, but he's the type of horse that's got to do plenty on the bridle. And some would say that's the same with Hookham as well. You know, he does need to do it on the bridle and come there and outclass his rivals. But there's every chance if his breathing holds up that he might do that here. He operates well on soft ground. He's 3 lengths behind Wonderful Tonight, really, in a Group 2 round Ascot early on in the season over course and distance. And, you know, any reproduction of that form is going to be good enough to win this.
Yeah, he's 3.0. And I think the other horse you mentioned there is another one that Nats is going for. So off you go.
Yeah, Quickthorn. I'm kind of, I don't want to jump ship here because I've been all over Hookham on various, you know, I've said it, expressed it vocally because he's actually one of my favourite horses. I'm not totally convinced about the win thing. I think they've tied his tongue down for a reason. I think he's just sort of, obviously sometimes a horse, it's got a thick tongue or a fleshy tongue, it can just get them. So I'm not 100% convinced he has a huge problem. Quickthorn though, how can I not give a shout for Quickthorn? Because how good was he last time? It was ridiculous watching the replay. I can only describe it as remarkable outcome. It was forfeiting around 15 lengths when ducking out to the paddock chute. It was extraordinary, really. It was lucky that they were going a modest gallop because Quickthorn then could just catch them up steadily away. And then obviously the modest gallop enabled him to catch them and then go on to win. But it was still one of the most remarkable replays. I keep watching it, a bit like Carobus last weekend. I can't get that out of my head. I just thought this race looks perfect for him because he looks to win a decent race such as this at this time of the year. So if I was the owner, I was the trainer, this is exactly where I'd be targeting Quickthorn. So I've come down on him, but I'm not deserting my Hookham. I love Hookham, but I think Quickthorn's got an absolute cracker in this.
So Quickthorn 6.5 and Hookham 3.0 at the top of the betting. That's for the Cumberland Lodge, mainly Team Hookham for the guys there. Big shout from Adele and Wells Fargo. Off we go to the next at Ascot. We've already done the feature from Newmarket. This is the Bengough Stakes at 3.15. Top of the betting is Glen Shiel, whose last success came in the Group 1 Champions Sprints at the back end of last year. Glen Shiel is 5.0. As I say it, I think that looks very generous. Great Ambassador 5.0. Bielsa is 8.5, 11.0 for Diligent Harry, 11.0 for King's Lynn and Tabdeed, and then we get into the bigger prices. Few shouts here then for Glen Shiel. Sam, you can make the case first of all.
Yeah, I'm not bonkers on the price, if I'm honest, Tom. I'd want a little bit more juice in it myself, but I can understand why he's been put in that price. Great Ambassador wouldn't want 20 mils of rain, I don't think. So, you know, whereas Glen Shiel wouldn't mind it. And I think perhaps that's why the layers and the exchange players have decided that decree that Glen Shiel should be short price in this, or shortish price in this. It comes off the back of a couple of subdued efforts, the latter of which was on fast ground at Haydock, obviously behind Emiratiana in the Sprint Cup there. The trip to Deauville didn't quite work out as they would have liked either. So there's a little dip in his form, but I'm hoping that the catalyst to an improved effort will be soft ground, Ascot, and a nice draw towards the Stanley rail. It's also not a negative that he gets on board with one of the finest jockeys of our generation in Paul Mulrennan. There's 1 from 1 on him, having one on him at Newcastle. I think, was it the Chip Chase, Adele? Have you spent that percentage yet?
No, that was long gone.
That's long gone, yeah, okay. New floors.
On the house.
So, you know, there's a lot of stars aligning for Glen Shiel. He does well this time of year as well. He wins in October. Obviously saves his best for 6 furlongs and proper deep autumnal ground as well. So there are some pluses. The negative for me is just the price is a bit tight, but I could probably only see it going one way if it continues to rain as it is.
Okay, so let's come to you, Adele, because obviously it's notable that Paul is on board. Is he a tricky horse that takes some knowing, do you think, or not at all?
It doesn't look it when I watch him, and Paul said he's easy enough to ride. He's been highly tried, hasn't he, Glen Shiel? You know, he runs in all the top sprints, and I do think he's massively ground dependent, so that'll be a big plus for him on Saturday. Like he's ran on ground this season that I thought was, probably far too quick for him, and I think it kind of showed. His best form is at Ascot even this year as well. So that's a big plus for him. You all take the mick about when I don't speak to Paul, and you actually all spoke to Paul, didn't you, before we come on air? And he said, what did he say is the best bet on Saturday is Glen Shiel. So we'll hold him to it. He's actually really looking forward to getting back on him. He's obviously, as Sam said, he's only ridden him once, and he won on him up at Newcastle. So he's really looking forward to getting back on board him. Great ambassador, I think, is even though he's well supported for the Air Gold Cup, they're so hard to win them races, and I do think he's a group. I think he's a group horse without a doubt, more than one like a heritage handicap horse, because they just we've got 20 something runners. You need so much luck. Luck comes into a massive play when in them heritage handicaps, and I think Great Ambassador is a really nice horse, and I do think he's going to be contesting in all the big group sprints next year. But I just think it's the ground for him. I think if it was as it was today, I'd be on Great Ambassador. But I think the fact that we know there's so much rain coming, and the fact that Glen Shiel will love it, he's hard to look past him with that.
I'm really tempted with Glen Shiel. But I am looking elsewhere. I think as a Group 1 winner, the price is fair, although Sam makes the point he's not necessarily been in such good form. I'm going to play it much safer with the Dream, who I quite like the draw and the fact that ahead of her is the likes of Diligent Harry out of 11, who is, you would imagine, going to be running up the stand-side rail, and Glen Shiel's not too far away either. She doesn't win very often. She's run some really good races. She ran great in the Guineas. She ran great prior to that behind Alcohol Free in the Fred Darling. She's handled cut before, and I just like the idea of a stiff 6 and sat off the pace and hopefully try to. She'll need some luck in running. She doesn't always get it, but I thought 15.0 win and place. She was worth a little go. I would imagine she's not good enough to win, but you never know. And I just couldn't decide at the top of the betting. And Nats, who are you looking at?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I don't know what happened. What happened to my brain today? People are going to think I'm absolutely nuts. But Diligent Harry, problem is 6 runs, 5 on the all-weather. The time we've seen him on turf, of course, in the Hackwood was on good to firm, okay? But if it can, the all-weather on the slow or the standard, if Diligent Harry has no problem with the ground, there's plenty that I like about him. He's a lightly raced 3-year-old. Like I say, went really close at Newbury. I was there again that day in the Hackwood, the Happy Romance one. It was just by a neck. And one thing to note, Diligent Harry, again in the replay, raced a bit too free, just raced too freely. I think if that can be a bit more contained, and if the ground isn't a problem, I think Diligent Harry, I think he's very, very talented. I think to start with, I think he was quite babyish. I think it took a little bit of time at home. I think he was a bit immature. But I think, Adam Kirby's always held him in quite high regard and always thought he'd actually be quite a special horse. So I don't see this above him, this Group 3. I think it all goes down to the rain and how he handles conditions.
It could be running on very different to last time, but price wise, Diligent Harry is, I think I had 12.0 in there. Let me confirm.
I think he's got the talent. I think he's got the talent. I just think it's the unknown, isn't it?
Well, it's worth playing it at 12.0 win and place. I take it for Diligent Harry coming out of stall number 11. That's the Bengough Stakes. We've all gone on that, haven't we? Yes. Let's move on to the 2-year-old trophy, which again another frightening contest. And you're all going to think I'm pathetic, and I couldn't find one here because it would have just been guessing, to be completely honest. So I'm sitting this one out. 8.0 Chipotle, 9.0 for Vintage Clarets. In fact, no. Let me update this. I need to refresh that.
I was hoping Adele was going to be like our Redcar guru.
I think she might have to be.
I would be like, God, this is.
Those are words you never want to hear uttered about yourself, are they, Adele? A Redcar guru.
Can we put that in her Twitter handle? I think that's important.
At Redcar guru.
Yeah, but you'd know so many of these runners. You'd know them well, wouldn't you, Adele? To be fair,
that's why I was going to sit it out, but I thought I can't. I'm going to be at Redcar. I can't sit this race out at all. I mean, usually we just go whatever Richard Fahey's running. That's what we usually do.
That's what I've done.
Second favourite.
There you go.
With vintage clarets, Richard Fahey.
And you have as well, Adele. So hang on, I've refreshed the prices now. So we've got 7.0 for Chipotle and vintage clarets. A point bigger is Symphony Perfect. Mott the Messer is 13.0 and bigger price is the rest. Right, so team vintage clarets. Adele first of all, basically because it's trained by Richard Fahey, right?
Yeah, I want the last 4 run-ins of it. So what more do you need to know? I just think, honestly, do you know what I'm most worried about is the ground, because it is going to be a washout on Saturday, and a lot of these 2-year-olds they haven't really come up against these conditions yet, because we haven't. Although I don't think we've had a great summer, the ground hasn't been too bad, has it? We haven't had these kind of like conditions for ages. So a lot of these 2-year-olds, we don't, all the main form is on good to firm, good. Some of them on good to soft, but I have a feeling they've got a lot of rain there today. I think tomorrow's not as bad. But Saturday, I've got my waterproofs out ready and my wellies, because it's going to be bad. So I was trying to look through, thinking, vintage clarets hasn't really got any form on any given the ground, but he's got some good form going into the race, and of course he's trained by Richard Fahey. I think Chipotle is massively ready for 6 furlongs. His pedigree's got 6-7 furlong winners in there. Again, there's not a massive amount of form on any kind of soft ground, and he's been really highly tried, not just in the highest level but against older horses as well, especially like running in the Nunthorpe, them fast 5 furlong races, and I think he's massively ready for a step up to 6. So I'm not really none the wiser, to be honest with you. I think Saturday I'll have a look at them in the parade ring. They'll probably be covered in rugs and wet through and late coming in, but just I suppose on the fact that Richard Fahey does so well with his horses there, then especially in that race, vintage clarets is the one that I'll side with, I think, but not great.
Nats, you can say your case for vintage clarets. How strong is it?
Well, it's not particularly strong, is it? Looking at, like Adele is looking at the ground, so you do then need to. I get it. Look elsewhere. I was gonna make a bit of a laugh about Richard Fahey. Just follow Richard Fahey. But again, it's the unknown. I suppose I'd be really annoyed at myself if I didn't mention Anadora for the Kevin Ryan team after that Musselburgh effort last time. I think just looking through, that was good to soft. I mean, it was only 4 runners and he was 3rd, so not great, is it? And lost ground final furlong. But I just think I'm quite a big fan of Kevin Ryan. And what price is Anadora? Is it?
Yeah, you've got 12.0 for Anadora.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it wasn't the worst effort, was it, at Goodwood on soft in July, coming 2nd there? But I'm not sure. It always seems to weaken really in the closing stages, which isn't ideal. So I'm also coming back to a bit of a where do I go? I just don't really know where to go in this. I think it is, for me, this is incredibly tricky. We could have a little line in each one, and like the Mojo Maker, for example, for Dave Loughnane, who's been doing really well. Again, did okay last time at York, 5th of 20. But it's the ground that's going to be a big problem. I mean, this horse has gone with cut on the ground, and it's nicely bred by Memas. So maybe that's the way for me to go with Mojo Maker, but it's pretty impossible. Sam, are you gonna just come up with something really good here?
Oh, I hope so.
Like what?
I'm going to go with Anadora. I mean, Kevin Ryan won it 10 years ago with Bogart, who's like 103 rated, and he's trying to win it with an 87 rated filly here. But I think the key for this race for me, just looking at it, is obviously Chipotle is 101 rated, Vintage Clarets 100 rated. They're the 2 standouts. Now, Eve Johnson Horton's horse, I'm not sure one's soft ground. I was quite keen on his chance at Goodwood, and he didn't really act on it that day. He didn't really act on it at Sandown behind Ebro River. So I'm just a bit worried that he might have a class edge on these. And I do think it's one of the worst renewals I've seen. I mean, you look at some of the previous winners of this race, Limato and Bogart, and, it's thrown up quality winners in the last decade. But I think there's only 15 go to post here as well, which is amazing, really, for a race of this nature. And I wonder whether it is a bit of a substandard renewal. And You know, I can't really see an 87 rated filly in my heart of hearts winning it, but you know, she's 5 lengths behind Sandrine in the Albany. It's a pretty fair effort. Hello, you second that day, so you know that's fairly decent form. She's coped with soft ground. It was heavy ground at Ascot. She coped with soft ground behind Illustrating at Goodwood. I think going back up to 6 and perhaps with a slightly more patient ride than she's been getting over 5. I was at York, you know, like a number of you, when, you know, she was 4th to Atta Girl. She lost a chance at the start there, but then stayed on quite nicely the last 100, 150 yards. So I think if I was going to have a bet in the race, I'd take a chance with her at 15.0, but it wouldn't be any maximum, that's for sure. You
might have talked me into it, Sam. You might have done.
I just don't like the head of the market, Tom. You know, Vintage Clouts is a lovely horse in her own right, but you know, is she soft ground, or you know, could be even heavy ground come the time of the race? You just don't know, do you? So at least with Anadora, you know that she'll cope with the ground, and hopefully she'll get into the frame at a decent price at the minimum.
Adele Nats, I meant no disrespect in saying about Sam's selection there. It's just the not going down the Train by Richard Fahey route. I quite liked his. I quite like what he was saying.
I showed a little bit more working, I think, just on that one selection.
I'm not saying that.
I'm glad Sam said, though, it's not a great renewal. We had 200 entries for Saturday, and that's what's made it so difficult. Yeah, we had a lot of entries. I suppose we were good to firm yesterday. It's good now. I presume after today and tomorrow we might be looking at good to soft, and then on the day it could go even heavier. I don't know why. The prize money's good. I'm not quite sure why we don't have as many runners this year round. Whether it's the rain forecast for Saturday, I don't know.
Maybe, but you take your chance, don't you? You're back end of the season, 85 grand to the winner. You've got even more chance of, you know, if you look at the form and you see the head of the market, all fast ground horses, you think, well, go on, then we'll have a punt here. And you know, I could see a little surprise in a race of this nature on Saturday. Cute. Yeah. And Vintage Clouts finishing 1-2, obviously. But
you would think so. You can't spend the whole time moaning about prize money, and there is prize money. Like, we go on and on and on about ground, but whether you're only ever working on a grass gallop, which is unusual, most trainers have got your sand gallop and your grass gallop. Like the sand gallop can be quite holding. Like you can't hold, you know, they'll be able to go through it. The trainer will know, and by their action, if they, you know, their knee action or whatever. But it's just it is a little bit disappointing, isn't it? But you know, I did also mention Anadora, by the way, Tom.
You did. You're quite right. You mentioned it first, and I will. If Anadora wins, you wait. You wait. You're going to get all the credit, I promise.
Sam delivered it a lot better than I did.
Adele, good luck getting over the flu in the rain for 6
hours.
Know, yeah. Great. Good luck for that. Right, the 350.
You couldn't pay me enough, Adele, to do that.
The 350 at Ascot is the Equine Productions The Fall. Looking forward to seeing that film. Challenge Cup. It's a heritage handicap over the 7 furlongs. Last race we're going to be looking at. I'm not going to give you prices because it's 8.0 the field, and I'll just give you them when we get to them. So, lots going up here. Natalie, straight back at you. Nats,
I knew you were going to come to me first. I knew you were going to do that. I was going to go for, I can never say his name very well, Aldery, the William Haggis horse, Jim Crowley on board, a team I very much like. Not amazing last time in the Skybet Mile at York, but you know, sort of mid-div 7-14, so bang on, to be fair, mid-div this horse. Course and distance, which I quite liked in this. Again, it looks fine ground-wise, surprisingly, this one. If we can go back to May at Ascot on good to soft, a winner that day and dwelt the start, so it didn't go perfectly, but still managed to win. So we've had a little bit of, you know, a good form to begin with this year. My only worry is we started well, didn't we, in the spring in May, and May went quite well and June was okay, and it's just sort of plateaued a little bit. But the last time that we saw him was the 20th of August, so I know that the Haggis team are a serious operation, so I'm hoping this is a decent break, be freshened up. Obviously, big connections with Chariot Stakes, but with Jim Crowley on board, I know Jim and William debrief big time and talk a lot about the runners, and I think that he's on this for a reason. And I'm going to be a bit punchy with Aldery, and I quite like this horse in this race.
8.0 on the ground. I was very tempted for all I've looked elsewhere.
I think it's a good bet.
Yeah, if he does want easier ground, he's had the last few times. Adele, who do you like?
I've got two, which I'm gonna play both of them at the place market because I think they're both big enough. I've got Al Ruffer, who I don't think I mind the ground if it goes soft because he won at York on soft ground. He's only had 2 starts this year. Probably needed his reappearance, and then I thought he was unlucky not to win last time out. So he's still a likely race 4-year-old. They were his first 2 runs this year after being gelded, so there still could be a bit more improvement in him. I think he's big enough to have a go at the place market as well, because I think he should be double figures, is he not? I can't remember what you said. Did you say?
Yeah, he's not quite. So he is 8.5.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I could have a little place bet on him. And then the other one is Accidental Agent, who I think is a massive price. Georgie Dobie gets back on board. I think she's 1 out of 1 on him. I think she won on him when she was claiming 5. She's got a claims 3 on him on Saturday. I think he's had a fairly successful season considering he's running some big races. He's been running in group company, the Joel Stakes, the Sovereign Stakes as well. But if you look back at his kind of like his handicap form, I think he could. I think based on that, he could run well. He was second to Al Soel. He was. He beat Rifleman, who then went on and won again. So if you just take away the group races and go back to his handicap form at the prices, I think he's a great bet. And Georgie Dobie's back on board. She knows him well. She won on him before, so I think he could run a big race.
And then Sam, because we're idiots, we've got our best bets both running in this race. So off you go in one of the hardest races of the day.
Why not, Tom? You've got to have a go, haven't you? I quite like Aldari. The stall 2 worries me a little bit, and that just put me off him. But I can certainly see where Nat is coming from with that. But River Nymph for me, I think, has been quite cleverly campaigned. Won the Victoria Cup here earlier in the season over course and distance. Won quite tidily. Then ran really well behind Kinross in a race that's worked out especially well. Had a nice break then. Came back at Newbury. Was easy to back, 16-1. Had a really encouraging comeback and a little look-see perhaps to this race, and then bounces into this race a fortnight later under conditions we know suit him ideally, drawn down the middle of the track, a little bit of pace to his left, I think, in Tomfrey, who can possibly go forward and give him a good lead into the race. Stays 7 well, obviously strong rider in Adam Kirby, loves Ascot, loves soft ground, very fair price for me, and Clive Cox could yet again have another big Saturday.
And I'm going to go for. I am going to back Al Rufar purely because I did last time and felt very hard done by. But I don't like Frankie on him. And Rab Havlin, who did a lot of work with him at home, was back on board last time. And he was at one stage jocked up, which is when I made the selection. I'm sure he was. And then it's now Martin Harley on board. So look, I think he's a tricky horse, but I still think on his day, he's definitely capable of this. And I just wouldn't want it to go heavy with the only thing, but I think he's worth having a little on. But Fresh is the main bet, 13.0. Really looking forward to seeing him over 7 here. He's been keeping on over 6 a few times. In particular in the Woking, he ran an excellent race. And that's some really good form. He was disappointing last time, but in the Stewards Cup, he challenged on the outside of the stand side group, and I just think the middle was dead, and he was probably at the worst part of the track. So I think he wants cutting the ground. I think he's a really good bet, 13.0. So he'd be my best bet of the day. So there we are. Which brings us nicely into best bets. So weekend best bets. We'll go back in sort of reverse race card order because we know who Sam and I like if you've been watching up to this point. So my best bet is Fresh in the feature handicap at Ascot. Sam?
River Nymph for me in the same contest at Ascot.
Head to head. Nat's your best bet?
Adele, are we regretting ours? Have we got the same one? Have we got Vintage Clarets in this?
No, I haven't. No, I've got.
Who's yours, Nats? Who's yours?
I've completely talked myself out of Vintage Clarets, haven't I? That's absolutely hilarious. I have. I've talked myself out of it.
Stick with it. Vintage Clarets.
I will, Tom. I'm not going to change. I'm going to stick because every time I change, you shouldn't change, but I still think it's hilarious. I've gone with a horse with no soft form. Anyway.
Well, you never know. Adele might have got the weather forecast completely wrong. Adele, who's yours?
I'm looking out at the rain and it's not good.
Who's yours, Adele?
Well, Paul says Glen Shields the best bet for Saturday, but I'm actually going to go with Mother Earth. I think she's a cracking price and she holds her form so well at the top level, so I think she can do it again.
Mother Earth in the Sun Chariot. Good stuff. Thank you very much indeed. Nat, welcome and thank you.
Let's see. Let's all speak to one another after the weekend. Wouldn't that be nice? We can go through.
Just take the mick. That's mainly what happened. Sam, thank you very much indeed. Adele, thank you. Get well soon, Adele.
Thank you.
Get well, Adele.
Your voice held up all right.
Get well soon.
Sounded great. And don't forget to go to insights.matchbet.com for all the guys' bets if you haven't got time to listen to the entirety of the pod. Well, if you're listening to this, you have. So well done. But you can get a recap at insights.matchbet.com. I'm going to say goodbye. Goodbye.